This one showed up 2 weeks ago. This was 1 week ago. Did this Flying V show up this week? Let's find out. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. No, it didn't. We're gonna have to keep waiting for that one. But we did get a couple of other Flying Vs. This time they were true 70s Flying Vs, unlike those other rainbow ones, but you got kind of like a silver pickguard one, a beige, a slightly different silver-colored one, and then kind of a greenish looking hue. But oddly enough, all the tuners had Schaller tips, despite actually being Grovers. So I guess that's kind of another fun 70s spec that they were trying to harken back to. This one was Rambore Taupe-Top, and this one Duck Green. But now let's get to the cream of the crop. Look at Pauljama print. It was $6,800. They put Les Paul outlines on your Les Paul. Interesting. I don't know if it's my favorite thing that's ever came out of the demo shop, but it works for a Christmas theme, the whole Christmas pajama stuff. I think I'd be happier with just the cow print or something like the J Moo 100 that we talked about in this episode. But they blacked everything out, so it's got the whole silhouette vibe to it. And I thought this was pretty fascinating. So we had the white top, but it looks like we have a black side right here, but then the back is also white, and in negative areas, they flipped it over to white, and they even have like a combination of the two colors here. You also have that right here on the headstock. So at least they went for a theme, and they went all out. But then if we continue on to our headstock, we have one of those outline stingers again, as well as one last Les Paul silhouette. Although oddly, they don't have the correct Gibson open book headstock on it. That's strange. For me, that kind of ruins the whole vibe. You've got knockoff Gibsons on your real Gibson? I guess I'm not surprised that it's still available. I think the coolest one this week has to be this Les Paul Custom in Kaleidoprism finish. Now, I'll be the first one to admit it's definitely not for everybody, but you have an alternating bold stripe with a thinner stripe going down the entire thing. Then you've got like this whole color changing effect. I'm not sure if it's this was sprayed this color or if like at different lighting angles, this all just plays on the colors. Because the whole kaleidoscope part of the name makes you think that might happen. But it looks like this is not a 57 reissue or anything like that, just a regular Les Paul Custom. But they added a third humbucker in the middle. The headstock shows us that they tinted all the lacquer on this guitar, so that's nice. But unfortunately, no fancy finish on the back. And it has a regular serial number, so that means they just refinished over a black one. I'd be shocked if this one's still in stock. Yes, it did sell, but look at this. It says it had a chambered body, and it was only 8.7 pounds. That made that one a little bit more special. But how do you guys feel about Grapeberry Burst? This was advertised as a 60s Les Paul standard. It looks like they did one of their semi-gloss / satin finishes on here. I really like this color. Nice dark blue, maybe a little bit of purple with the border. I could see that becoming a mainstay finish. But the back of this one was left natural. How's this for a weird 335? They basically tried to juniorify it, right? We've got one single bridge P90 that they did up in a cream plastic. You still have a stop bar tailpiece and a Nashville bridge. But in order to do this, they had to create this interesting pearloid pickguard right here that covers over the neck pickup cavity. So I'm curious, if anybody bought this, remove your pickguard. Does it actually have the route, or were they just using that to hide the ugly tenon join? Because that's the thing, you can't actually have a one pickup ES335 without having a tenon cover, because you can reference the Tom DeLonge ES333s. The reason that has a little plate right there by the neck is because there's an ugly joint underneath that. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, how did they put a dog-ear P90 in there? Does that completely cover the route or not? And then, taking a book out of the L5S, kind of. They matched the back plate, but it was unique enough for someone to pick up. Next, we have a 57 Les Paul standard reissue. Started life as a gold top with the Bigsby, but then they just sprayed it over green. As referenced by our name, green over gold. In fact, Jimmy Page's number 3 Les Paul is a red over gold. So it kind of harkens back to that, but in a different shade. The back is a really aged natural. It's either that or the mahogany's really red. To follow that up, we have an SG standard. A viewer of the show actually purchased this one, and he reached out to say, hey, I'm so happy I got this. So it's got interesting wood grain to it, right? It's very fuzzy looking. They did the whole pearloid pickguard. Maybe not my favorite, but it jives. In fact, I would even agree with having the black poker chip yet, because it kind of helps break up the monotony of the white. But he was excited to get it because they put a stinger on the back of this one, just for fun. Next, we had Cracklin Coal Burst. With a name like Cracklin Coal, I was kind of hoping it would be another cracked finish, which, by the way, the Cracked Ice Les Paul Custom was rated the most watched piece of gear on Reverb for the particular week that I posted it. So you can check out that review and demo here if you happen to have missed it. But my goodness, guys, 462 watchers in a week is insane. Within the first day, I had 140 watchers, which is way more than normal. I usually average like 30, 35. So I had a feeling I was going to make that top spot, but they update that every week. But as of the time of recording this, it hasn't sold yet. I mean, it might. But if nothing else, I'm glad I picked it up to document because it appears a lot of people wanted to see that one. But no, this one's just kind of a reddish orange black color. Kind of reminds me of a pumpkin. The back almost has the hair of the dog finish. That's cool. And then we get the old pre-war Gibson style logo. But this 335 is beautiful, midnight Pelham blue. Basically, I think they took a regular Pelham blue and they just sprayed over a slightly yellowed lacquer. And you can tell that because it just has a little bit of a tint to it. Not enough to make it green, just to darken it up a tad. And then the back is done the same, but what's with our serial number? It's like they lost the original stamping, and then rather than giving it one of the DS serial number styles, they just re-inked it there. That's a strange one. And then this classic had pavement sparkle finish, so basically a dull gray with a black back. And then a standard 50s in tobacco burst. The black hardware works really well with this finish. It's extra evil. We got your new witch hat knobs on here with your uncovered bridge pickup. That looks like it might have the side covers to it. And that's a nice dark fretboard. And the back was left natural. Then evening fire burst. Les Paul Jr. Juniors always look so naked without their little pick guards on them. They really help tie them all together, but this one does not have that. It's been all blacked out, but it works with the finish. I'd probably like it better if we had a darker fretboard, but that's all right. We've got another old world Gibson logo. And it looks like they tried to burst the back a little bit and maybe just the edges of the neck, so that's cool. Probably not 2100 cool in my eyes, but somebody liked it. Then the last one is this non-reverse Thunderbird bass. I like the mods on this one. Nice pearloid pickguard, open pore satin black finish. Whoa, really strange looking bridge and a slightly non-standard tailpiece. That is a pretty cool one. The back looks like this, and it also has one of those old Gibson logos on it. So that wraps it up for the mod collection. Let me know what your favorite one was down in the comment section below, but now let's move over to the demo shop. Okay, so apparently the demo shop had this huge 30% off sale on anything that was listed as fair condition, but I completely missed this because according to Reverb, it sold out in minutes. But just to give you an idea, here's a 57 Les Paul custom reissue that was listed at $5,400. That was fair condition. So $5,400. You would be paying 70% of that. That means you could get that for $3,800. And that was a real 57 Les Paul custom reissue. I mean, you can see how much they are right here on the screen. That was a screaming deal. It just had a couple of scratches. It really wasn't even that bad. I'm sure we'll see a lot of these get flipped. So most of what you're seeing today that's ended up selling was sold for 30% less than what you're seeing the price is actually there. But they sold a lot of stuff. It was a good 2.5 pages worth. But here's what stood out to me. First off, we had a rare hen's tooth here. A custom color called Blurple Burst. Okay, this one wasn't fair, so it was definitely sold at $3,000. It stayed on the market for a couple of hours. I was kind of considering this. It looks like it started life as a burst, but then they just sprayed purple over top of it and maybe even a little bit of green. The white plastics and knobs jive with the finish, and they refinished the back and the neck, so they had that going for it. And you can't really see it in this photo, but I think they also sprayed over the headstock in that light purple color as well. All of that for basically the price of one of the brand new ones that has the super fancy top. It was well worth it. But look at this beautiful piece. SG Tribute, left-handed. Oh wow, I thought that was one of the older ones. No, that thing's like brand new. It's got a nice natural burst color to it. It reminds me of the late 90s, early 2000s natural burst SG standards. But this has this beautiful wood grain right here by the knobs. The pearloid pickguard works well with that finish, as well as the zebra bobbin pickups. That's just an awesome player's guitar. Because if you look back here, it still has the maple neck, but they bursted the back. So they did a little bit of a custom finishing on this one, I do believe. This 335 was modified with blacked out hardware, but then they added gold pickup rings. It gives it an interesting vibe. Certainly makes the pickups stand out. And the back was all black. Man, that 30% off sale was crazy. You could never get an Access Custom for $2,800 before. That was a screaming deal. But that's not why I even wanted to show you guys this one. Look at the serial number on it. It's like inversely stamped. All that went through to the headstock was the white outer layer. Normally it looks like this. You have like a little bit of a black layer in between, but it's like they didn't get all the ink on it. For example, here's another one of how it kind of looks like it's the outline, but you can just tell this one is a little bit stylistically different and cooler. There were just so many black guitars this time that I just wanted to highlight a couple of these. But next up was a Lefty Classic. I thought $1,800 for that was really fair, but it was like, what, $1,400-ish after their fair discount? Of course it went fast. So this one was around $1,700, but the only reason I wanted to share it with you is because nothing that the guitar had on it. It was the case. It came with one of those Gibson chainsaws, which is what the new Epiphone Adam Jones's came with, but it was actually Epiphone branded. So far as I'm aware, the only guitar to come stock from Gibson with this case was the Ness Deluxe. This 59 reissue in Gold and Poppy Burst was absolutely gorgeous. I'd saved this even before I knew it was 30% off. That made that just a little over $3,500. That's like a Christmas miracle to some people. That is a great top on that for $35. That's unheard of pricing. So this one was a little bit more. Maybe doesn't have the most evenly flamed top in the world, but it's beautiful. Factory Burst is one of my favorite colors. And the owner of this one actually reached out to me and he was like, is this one of the early Murphy Labs? Because it's one of those ones that has the chipping finish. In my opinion, it looks like it, because generally the demo shop doesn't get stuck with guitars that artists went out and played. I mean, there's a possibility of it, but it looks like this one has a lot of replaced parts. Because I noticed this has the older shielding back plates that Gibson USA used, and that truss rod cover's definitely been replaced. And then this one wasn't on sale, but it has a pretty cool wood grain pattern to it. And if you notice, this actually has a P90S pickup in the neck and a regular P90 in the bridge. You can tell because of the screws for the pull pieces here versus having these slug coils. But I had somebody reach out to me and say that a few of these 2011 guitars that were listed this year might have been part of the seized property, because apparently this was like one day before that raid happened, so maybe they're getting these guitars back later and didn't know what to do with them, so they just stored them. I haven't really fact-checked any of that, but it seems probable. Then if you go over to the European demo shop side of things, they sold a lot of stuff as well. But here's what I found the coolest. There was an HP 415W. Yeah, never heard of that either, but it's got a pretty cool looking back. There was one of the Les Paul Special Tributes DC. I mean, the top's okay, but that back, it's very nice and swirly. I like it. This Tribute had an interesting hourglass figuring right here. And then another model I'd never heard of, Gibson L00 Sustainable. I vaguely remember the Sustainable lineup, but I don't know it enough to tell you anything about it. But it looks like they used wooden inlays for the Gibson logo, as well as anything that was normally plastic, and even the inlays on the fretboard. Honestly, I'd like to see Gibson do more of that. Wooden inlays are really cool. There was an ESLP in Pelham Blue. You don't see that finish every day on this particular model. And then what's the back of this 735 look like? Nice and stringy. All right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed the recap this week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you're looking for some more guitar fun tonight, why don't you check out the Jimi Hendrix SG? Yeah, that was a thing, and Gibson reissued it in the year 2020.